You know Miami, right? Miami. All-night parties, champagne flowing like a river. Supercars gliding down the boulevard. A tropical paradise that never sleeps. But, have you ever wondered why the streets here are so, miraculously clean of homeless people? You know, it's not because they've all found homes. Because the truth is, Miami isn't just the pink glow of cocktails. On another side of the city,
so we go out into the community, go on the bridges, we scour the sidewalks, we go on foot. Sometimes we just take the van and we walk down certain streets. So there's different tactics that we use to be able to make sure that we're getting an accurate count.
a ruthless sweep campaign. Police are using drones to hover over the dunes, checking every single nook and cranny. House Bill 1365 just kicked in, turning outdoor sleeping into a crime statewide.
It's really important for us to do these activities because it's kind of give you the heartbeat of what's really going on with the homeless community within the city of Miami.
Mayor Stephen Minor even publicly called this a huge success. What do you think? So did they actually disappear? Or were they simply pushed somewhere else? Because behind those clean numbers is a reality that rarely gets talked about. Around 66,000 hidden homeless people in Miami, including as many as 11,000 children. They're not sleeping on the streets. They're not setting up tents in parks. Instead, they're crashing on someone else's couch, staying in cheap weekly motels, or constantly moving so no one notices. You got it.
Try to stay as warm as possible in the tent. I fought through the hurricane, so I can stand a little cold.
And at the same time, rent has jumped by 80% since 2019. Even people with jobs are starting to fall behind. So, what's really going on here? Is Miami solving the problem or becoming a symbol of a new approach? The trend of criminalizing homelessness instead of the prioritizing housing model housing first as before. So, before we go any further, the numbers, the hidden reality, the people quietly slipping through the cracks, it all connects back to one thing: the law. You might be thinking, if the streets look cleaner, if fewer people are visible, isn't that a good thing? Sounds logical, right? But what if that improvement is only happening on the surface? So in the next part, we're going to break down this new law, how it works, why it's being praised, and more importantly, what it's actually doing behind the scenes. You got it? Let's get into it. Miami Beach just posted the lowest unsheltered count in nearly 30 years, only 93 people sleeping rough in the January 2026 point-in-time census. Florida's HB 1365 bans sleeping in public spaces statewide. It sounds clean, no tents, no overnight stays, no visible encampments. In 2025 alone, Miami Beach cops logged roughly 800 arrests for sleeping or camping outdoors, triple the year before. Refusal to enter a shelter, and you're cuffed on the spot. Bail sits at about $150, cash most people on the street don't have.
There's something about being locked down inside that I can't be real comfortable with. Curfews and all that, so I'm a free spirit. 6 years military, so I think I can handle it.
Drones flew more than 40 missions last year, spotting 80 makeshift camps tucked into the beach dunes. On the ground, crews installed concrete spikes and sharpened metal studs on park benches, bus shelters, and seawalls. Classic hostile architecture designed to make sitting or lying down physically painful. No more soft spots to rest. The street itself has been engineered to reject human bodies.
We're not trying to be a nuisance, so we didn't really have a choice in that because they told us to 1:15 Friday, don't pack up our stuff and be ready by 4 o'clock, and they didn't tell us where we were going or anything.
Go to a shelter? No way. Inside, they're always overcrowded. The rules are strict, and there are a million different disadvantages waiting for them. And when they get arrested and thrown in jail, each person costs the city $294 a day. If hundreds or even thousands of people end up behind bars, just how massive does that bill climb? You can imagine it, right? Clearly, the city is burning through a massive amount of money just to move people around instead of actually providing real housing for them. And after about 2 months when they're released, they go right back to the streets because there's no affordable housing waiting for them and no real long-term support system in place. It's a high-speed revolving door dressed up as progress. If you can't stop moving, how do you ever stabilize your life? So when the mayor stands up and celebrates 93 unsheltered on the beach, ask yourself the hard question: did we actually fix anything, or did we just make the problem harder to see? Because right now the drone footage looks great, the benches stay empty, and the real numbers are quietly climbing in the neighborhoods next door. The biggest part of Miami's homelessness problem is the part you don't see. We're not talking about tents on sidewalks or people sleeping in parks. Those are visible, countable, manageable from a policy standpoint. What's harder to track and way more dangerous is the hidden homeless population. Right now, estimates point to around 66,000 people in Miami-Dade County living without stable housing. And within that number, about 11,000 are children. These individuals aren't technically on the street, so they fall outside most official counts. Instead, they rotate through survival options, couch to couch, week to week motels, sometimes cars. No lease. No security, no fixed address. And that last part, no address, is critical. No address means limited access to services. No consistent health care, no stable job retention. Everything becomes temporary, fragile. One missed payment, one conflict with a host, one bad week, and they drop straight into street homelessness. So this isn't a separate group. This is the feeder system, and it's growing. Now connect that to cost of living. Rent in Miami has surged dramatically over the past few years, in some areas up to 80% since 2019. Wages not even close to keeping up. So what happens? People who are working full-time, sometimes multiple jobs, still can't cover basic housing. That's how you get what insiders call working homeless. They're employed, they're functional, but they have no place to stay. If you're working every day and still don't have a place to sleep, what does that say about the system? And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because when these individuals aren't visible, they're easy to ignore. They don't trigger complaints. They don't show up in street counts. Politically, they don't exist in the same way. But operationally, they're the majority. So while the public conversation focuses on what's happening outside, the real pressure is building inside apartments, motels, and borrowed spaces across the city. And if that layer collapses, you don't get a slow increase, you get a surge. But here's the hard reality that nobody wants to put on the evening news. While the arrest numbers look like a win on paper, the real-world fallout is hitting hard and fast across Miami-Dade. On the plus side, big money is finally moving. A $5 million grant from Bezos is targeting families stuck in those weekly motels. Another $21 million in federal cash is opening extra shelter beds. And a few programs are actually flying people back to their home states when they have family waiting. Sounds solid, right? You got it. That's the official "we're doing something" narrative. Flip the coin, and the picture turns ugly quick. This whole crackdown is straight up criminalizing poverty instead of fixing it. Every single arrest still burns $294 a day in taxpayer cash, and with hundreds cycling through the system, it adds up to millions flushed just to shuffle bodies around. Families and kids are taking the worst hit. The hidden 66,000 are drowning in stress, missing school, skipping doctor visits, and living one eviction notice from total collapse. The root problems, sky-high rents, dead-end jobs, zero affordable housing, haven't moved an inch. We're not solving homelessness, we're just relocating it and calling it progress. Here's the part that really fires people up. Advocates are calling it exactly what it is: exporting the problem. Push the unsheltered out of Miami Beach and they pop up in City of Miami or North Dade, overwhelming those neighborhoods. Ron Book, head of the Homeless Trust, didn't hold back. He flat out said the jail route is a stupid money pit that solves nothing and just creates a revolving door. People get released after 2 months with zero long-term support, then they're right back on the street or in the next motel because the housing units were never built. So the big controversial question: are we actually helping these families survive? Or are we just burning public cash to make the beach look pretty for tourists, while the human cost piles up out of sight? The numbers don't lie. More shelters and grants are a start. But without real housing first, this is still a high-cost game of musical chairs with real lives. This is the technical survival breakdown of the full impact in early 2026. Some money moving a ton of pain, moving, and a city still arguing over whether the success is real or just well-packaged displacement. Health breaks first, long before housing does. Out here, it's not one big collapse. It's small, constant wear, missed medication, irregular sleep, poor nutrition, heat exposure. Then it stacks, fast. Most people on the street or cycling through unstable housing are dealing with chronic conditions, diabetes, heart issues, respiratory problems. Add to that mental health stress, anxiety, depression, untreated trauma. And now you're looking at a system under pressure with no safety net. And here's the key detail: access. No ID, no insurance, no fixed address. That combination alone locks people out of traditional healthcare. Clinics require paperwork. Appointments require stability. Prescriptions require follow-up. None of that aligns with a life that changes day to day. If you can't even guarantee where you'll sleep tonight, how do you manage a long-term condition? So what fills the gap? Street medicine. Mobile teams, doctors, nurses going directly into encampments, sidewalks, motel clusters, treating wounds on the spot. Managing conditions with whatever tools they have. It's practical, it's immediate, but it's also limited. Because you're not fixing the system, you're stabilizing it temporarily. Now layer in mental health. Without consistent care, small issues escalate. Focus drops. Decision-making gets harder. Job retention becomes unstable. Social connections weaken. And just like that, the chances of getting back into housing drop even further. What happens when your mind is under pressure and there's nowhere stable to recover? This is where the cycle locks in. Health declines, leads to work becomes harder, leads to income. Drops leads to housing becomes impossible, leads to stress increases, leads to health declines again. And here's the uncomfortable part. We often treat health as a separate issue from homelessness. But on the ground, it's the same system. Break one, you break the other. The system isn't failing. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do: reduce pressure fast. Right now, Miami is running a mix of interventions. You've got shelters expanding capacity temporary housing units like tiny home communities and more outreach teams on the ground. On paper, that looks like movement. And to be fair, it does help short term. People get off the street. They stabilize for a bit. They get a bed, a shower, maybe a case manager. But here's the problem. The inflow rate is higher than the exit rate. More people are falling into housing instability than the system can pull out. What happens when you're bailing water out of a boat, but the leak is still wide open? Because these programs are built for relief, not throughput. Shelters limited beds, high turnover, strict rules, not designed for long-term stability. Tiny homes, scalable yes, but still small relative to demand. Outreach, critical but reactive, not preventive. So even when someone gets help, it's often temporary. Now layer in the bigger issue, tracking outcomes. There's very little long-term data on what actually works. Who stays housed after 6 months? 1 year, 2 years? Which programs reduce return rates? Without that funding, decisions become guesswork, and that leads to a cycle. Launch a program, then show short-term results. Then move on, then repeat. If we don't track what works, are we solving anything or just managing appearances? And here's where it gets controversial, because from a policy standpoint, visible improvement matters. Cleaner streets, lower public complaints, better optics. But those metrics don't always reflect real stability. They reflect reduced visibility. So yes, the system is active. Money is being spent. Programs are running. But at ground level, the pressure is still there. And until the system shifts from temporary relief to permanent exits, real housing long-term support, measurable outcomes, this doesn't slow down. It just resets. Here's the no BS reality check most city officials won't say out loud. While Miami Beach celebrates its shiny 93 unsheltered victory, the rest of Miami-Dade County is quietly bleeding. The county-wide count jumped to 1,184 people sleeping rough, the highest number since 2008, and City of Miami alone spiked 11% to 605. The arrests didn't fix homelessness. They just exported it to the next zip code. Same story playing out in LA, Austin, and parts of New York cities that went heavy on bans and sweeps instead of building housing. The visible numbers drop on the fancy blocks, but the total human load on the streets actually grows. You got it. This is textbook displacement, not solutions. Spring break 2026 is already breathing down our necks. Tourists will flood in, rents will spike even higher, and the pressure on every motel and back alley is about to crank up hard. If the city keeps doubling down on drone spikes and $294 a day jail bills instead of flipping to real housing first units, we're looking at another year of the same expensive revolving door. Families will stay crammed in those 300-square-foot weekly rooms. Kids will keep rotating between couches and school desks. And the hidden 66,000 will keep slipping further through the cracks. So here's the controversial gut check: is Miami really leading the way with tough love tactics? Or are we just repeating the same high-cost mistake other cities have already proven doesn't work? The numbers are crystal clear without affordable housing built first. All this success is just moving bodies around and calling it progress. The next 12 months will show whether the city finally learns the lesson or keeps burning cash to make the beach look pretty, while the real survival fight rages out of frame. Nothing here is accidental. This is a system under pressure responding in real time. You've seen the pattern. Visibility goes down, numbers look better, but underneath, the load is still there. People don't disappear, they shift, they compress, they wait. If a problem becomes less visible, does it actually get smaller? Because right now, Miami has resources, programs, enforcement, all active. And still the cycle keeps resetting. That tells you something. What if the issue isn't capacity, but direction? So the real question is simple. Are we building exits or just managing flow? Because at street level, that difference isn't theoretical. It decides who stabilizes and who circles back.